All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. Nice windy day. Didn't get blown away. That's good. So if you've never been here before, this is Sector 67. We host these monthly meetings as like a show and tell. People talk about projects or things that they're working on to share. And I think we got only a couple things tonight, which is totally fine. And then afterwards, you can go around and say who you are, what you're interested in, that kind of thing. And then I can give people a tour of the space if you've never been here before. So without further ado, where's Eric hiding? Mr. Eric, you get to go first. It can be very exciting. We put the best presenter first, just so everybody knows. Eric, clearly gonna. No, not me. No, I'm just the intro guy. So I'm softening up the crowd for
you. When does the timer start?
Oh, it's right now. Oh. It's already running. No, I haven't run a timer in a while.
Better stand in front of the camera. Hi, I'm Eric Preston. Been a sector member for a long time. I took a bit of a hiatus during COVID because I used to rent office space here, and that didn't work out so well for a while. And still for me doesn't work out because I don't like wearing a mask all day long. And during COVID, we figured out how to all work from the house. So we got it kind of sorted out. Anyway, I'm coming back to sector a lot this winter and spring because I get bored and I need projects, and I've got a 12-year-old and I need projects with him. And so the first project is that I had cut down a cherry tree. I do a lot of prairie restoration, prairie oak savanna restoration. We cut down lots of trees, walnuts and cherry trees, and I cut down a tree that had a nice big barrel in it, but it's, you know, a barrel can be somewhat spherical. I cut part of it off with a chainsaw, but now it's this kind of hemispherical oblong shaped thing. And how do you get a nice slab out of that? Well, you go to sector and you ask Chris for help on how to use the resaw saw. And so we cut a slice out of it, and then I sanded it and kind of messed up with the bark that's still on it, and then finished it. And I'm really happy with the outcome. It's like a charcuterie board, or it could be a piece of art. My wife doesn't like it, so I got to sell it on Etsy, I think. So then,
hang on the wall in the office there.
Yeah, I might do that actually. Then I needed a project. Well, my son wanted to learn how to play chess, and I'm not really a good chess player. I used to play with my grandpa 50 years ago, but I said, well, first we should make a chessboard, because who wants to buy a chessboard? That's boring. Anybody can buy a chessboard, right? So let's make a chessboard. And so how do we do that? We go to sector. And it turns out that, you know, I could do the whole thing here, which is pretty cool. So I got some wood at Woodcraft. It's pretty flat. So we just, Chris helped me with the planer. We planed the face. Then I jointed the edges because they needed to be jointed. And I hate using a joiner, but I'm getting my confidence back with the joiner. Then you run it through the table saw and you get strips, 2-inch wide strips, 16, 18 inches long, and you glue them up together. That's what we did. And I love glue up boards. There's something very satisfying about glue ups. I'm a software guy, so it's nice to work with like real stuff. And then you take those strips that you glued up, alternating colors, and then you slice it the other way, 2 inches, to make squares, and you glue those up into a grid, like so. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot we're on the Zoom, like so. And then I decided to make a frame out of walnut, and that mostly worked okay. The glue up was the hard part with the walnut frame, because you got to get the miters just right, and then you got to get the lengths just right. It's not like making a picture frame where you got a lot of slop in the middle there, right? You got no slop in the middle here. So I probably did it wrong. Well, I'll get to the wrong stuff in a second. But anyway, I used a picture frame clamping system along with bar clamps and clamped it all together and glued it together. And then I finished it, and we played our first game of chess earlier this week, and I won. Barely, only because he's learning, but we both kind of suck at it. So it's kind of an interesting process. If anybody's got any advice on like really good starter books, we're reading Bobby Fischer's How to Play Chess book. I don't recommend that book. It's a fascinating read, especially if you can get past his ego. But it's real.
Chessboard with no ego.
I know. So I'll just quickly talk about the two things that went wrong. First thing that went wrong is I chose cherry and walnut woods, partly because Woodcraft didn't have maple that I liked. They either had really fancy, expensive maple, or they had soft maple. They just didn't have the maple that I wanted. The problem with cherry is that it'll darken, and then it starts looking, and walnut will lighten. So then it's going to end up looking like not a grid anymore. So what I did was I did a lot of Googling, and I found that if you use a water-based urethane, it'll prevent it from darkening, the wood changing color. But I really don't like working with water-based urethanes. They're great if you're building a skating rink or something, but they don't leave that really, really nice finish like the natural wood finish. So, and I bought this flat from General Finishes, which is stupidly expensive because that was supposed to be the really good stuff. And then I put their other fancy water-based urethane on top. But next time I make a chessboard, I'm going to use maple, and I'm going to use like a Danish oil finish or something like that, because I'm not really. We had this thing so smooth. My son, he wanted to sand, and he got really bored with that really fast. But I said it makes a difference, So we went from 80 to 120 to 150, and he's like, "Oh, I see. You can really feel the difference," and that's kind of cool. The last thing I'll just say that I did wrong is I didn't do the frame right. I didn't get the miters exactly right, and I didn't get the sizing exactly right, and I probably didn't clamp it up the right way. So I've got some gaps in the miters that I filled with CA glue, which is fine, but if I ever make another one, I got to do it slightly differently, and I'm not exact. Oh, but I did get to use the table router. All the machines I used: the table saw, the joiner, the planer, the table router. That's probably it for this board. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun. So, and the big Rotex sander to get the tear out from the table saw, because you do a cross cut on wood, there's a little bit of tear out there, but we just sanded it out with the Rotex and some 80 grit, and sweet. Anyway, for those of you on Zoom, bye, thanks.
You gotta take questions, buddy.
Oh yeah, it's questions. No, questions. What else did I do wrong?
You want to pass it around, Kurt?
Sure. Just don't drop it.
It's the price of starter pack. This, I think we were talking before the meeting. He sell for like 30,000.
Well, you can get a chessboard on Etsy. I got chess pieces on Etsy for like $80. There's no way I'm going to hand carve chess pieces. No, not a chance. Sean, you had a question? Oh, I got those from India. They got Indians making those really inexpensively these days, and they're really quality, made out of rosewood and crazy stuff like that. So.
Can you pass around?
Oh yeah, this one. Sure. Anybody wants to buy this, they can, because like I said, I don't know, $5. No, I'm kidding. I can't sell it because it's my first. My first. Okay.
So Eric, it looks like a both cherry and black walnut. So they're cherry will darken with the sun, and walnut will lighten, so keep it out of the sun.
Yeah, but I think cherry will darken anyway. But
yeah, it will, but it's exacerbated.
Yeah, so obviously we're not going to leave it in the sun too much. I don't think we haven't found a place for it in the house. I told my wife, I said, now I need to build a table to be able to play chess at, because our dining room table is a little too big. But we don't even have room in the house for like a separate standalone table to play chess at. So we've been playing on the dining room table, but it's not working out great. Yeah.
The next chessboard you need is the table you're using.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, definitely. I Googled it, and everything in Google said somewhere between 1 3/4 to 2 inches square. I went with 2 inches. That's another slight mistake I made, was that I wasn't as precise about the second cuts across as I was so the first cuts were ripping these boards at 2 inches. The second cuts after the glue up was cutting those with the sled on the table saw, ostensibly at 2 inches. I should have been a little more precise. So the board's not perfectly square. It's close enough for government work, but it's not perfectly square.
You can fix that with manual.
Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I love that idea.
There's.
I've never done an inlay, but that's the right
reason
solution.
cherry darkens, oh, sorry, is the tannins in the wood. And there's stuff you can do. I don't remember what it is, but there's stuff you can do to bleach it, and you can definitely make it darker with it. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Dog ever pees in your wood.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well,
I'm pretty sure there's a way.
I still think I want to use maple the next time instead of, but cherry. Also, I'm not sure I like the color combination, to be honest with you. The cherry's a little too pink or something. It's just, I love cherry, but yeah, I don't know. For a chessboard, it's not my favorite.
You might want to look at shellac too. Instead, you can get that until like class.
Yeah.
It's just you got to make sure you don't tell it all.
No, I have a classical guitar that's French polished, so I know all about not getting out. People would go to these guitar festivals and put hand sanitizer on their hands, and then they would pick up this French polished guitar. And these guitar maker friends of mine, they're like, "What's my guitar with those hands?"
It does.
I was thinking to look, yeah, I guess so, with that little head sticking out. Yeah, it looks like a mushroom. That's kind of what I thought
Oh, there you can do that.
it looked like. Well, I don't want to take up other time, but I guess Chris did say we had a lot
I
of
play
other.
guitar too, but I only play cheap guitar.
What's that? Oh, sure. This one? Yeah, sure.
Can you tell Tim's a teacher? He needs everybody to
Right.
equal opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna ask you, Chris's time is worth $20 an hour.
Oh, no, it's
How
not.
much was this project?
Oh, wow, ouch. I don't know that helped a ton.
Yeah, you didn't have to help too much. The hardest part was the resaw of
Yeah,
that.
every song's tricky.
And you don't really want to do that by yourself anyway.
Yeah.
You got one person on one side, you really want somebody on the other side, so.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
All right. David, I know you're on the Zooms. Did you want to present?
Sure, I can present.
Yeah, you sound perfect. Take it away.
All right. Hi, I'm David. I'm a prospective member. I live in Los Angeles right now, so thinking about relocating to Madison soon. But I'm working on this is very early stages. This is I basically haven't started yet, but I want to make a daylight clock. So this is a daylight clock for iPhone. So it's just like a 24-hour arm, and then it just shows, when the sun is coming up, when it's going down. This one is really nice. It has all the different like astronomical, nautical, different dusks and dawns, twilight, etc. Astronomical. So I want to make one that hangs on the wall, that's like battery powered and lasts for months, like a regular wall clock. So I finally I made this e-paper do something. So the idea is like show the dark and light with e-paper, which you can the e-paper will update like once a day, and it'll take like a tiny amount of power to just update once a day. And then I found this 24-hour wall clock on Amazon, and thinking about combining this with the e-paper. The housing is like, I don't know if I'm going to put the housing in front of the e-paper or try to put it behind the e-paper and wrap the arm around or something. But anyway, that's the idea.
Are you worried about the hole through the middle for the e-paper?
Yeah, I don't know if you can just like put a hole in the middle of an e-paper display and expect it to keep working. Maybe you can.
An e-paper punch is what somebody here said. So
Oh, yeah? Is
Joke.
that,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I know Amazon, the Kindles have all the e-paper stuff, and I know for sure that they're broken readily if they get like tapped on something. So you might be, yeah, it might be interesting. Not sure you can put a hole in it. You could do 2 sheets though, top and bottom, and then split the display.
Oh, yeah.
That might work.
Good idea.
Oh,
You know, I was thinking, you could also like make this arm. This is like cardboard, or I don't know what it is actually, but maybe you could, have it add something onto it that makes it come in from outside the e-paper. And then there would be like a giant bezel holding this like widescreen clock.
You could
Yeah.
use like those mechanical pieces. Use them at airports. Seen video.
oh, the flip
Yeah,
style.
the-
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could have basically it's got a white and black thing on it. You address it, flip. So it's once you apply the voltage, it's set, right? It doesn't change until you.
Mhm.
So you'd have a whole bunch of those.
The other, I don't know if you heard the other comment here was to put it on the right and left side of it rather than the top and bottom, because sunset and sundown would never be at the up and down part of the clock. So you basically just play the middle because there's nothing that's going to ever happen in the middle of it, and that might work.
Yeah. That's
Because
great.
all the actions at the left and right side. So
True.
depending on your attitude.
Yeah, it depends where you are, but
More than likely.
Yeah.
Alaska, Antarctica, maybe some issues.
Because you could have a strong magnet hold the hand behind the e-paper and to turn.
Oh,
So you could do 1 sheet of e-paper with the hand right in the center, like you're thinking, but just have the hands turn, through strong magnet to the side.
can you hear Sean or not?
I can't really hear.
I gotta crank up the microphones. So he said you could put a magnet through the e-paper, like strong enough to hold the hand on the front, and then have the clock in the back spinning it, and it would still move the hand through the paper, but you wouldn't have to put a hole through it. And then, because you can couple the 2 magnets together without smashing the paper, which might take some experimentation.
I definitely remember seeing clock ones where the hands were spun from the outside, like what you're saying, but instead of a magnet, the outside was a ring and the hands were attached that direction and spun. I don't remember where I saw it. I do remember it. I think it's really weird, but it was for a similar application. I didn't want to put a hole.
I think there's a big spot in the MoMA design collection that might have that from the outside. One of those things from before you. Keep your thoughts coming. I got the test the microphone here. All right, I think the mics. You should probably be able to hear the room better. I might be too loud. Yeah, there was another person here who made a clock that had 1 stepper motor to run it a long time ago, and the idea was it had 2 hands, and the hands were held just together with magnets. And then once a minute, the clock would run backwards and bump the minute hand forwards, and it would move both hands back to the right spot, which is another mind-blowingly strange way of building a clock. So you directly drove the hour hand, and you used a pin to stop the minute hand, and you keep track of the relative position of the 2 hands, and then drive the clock back to the right spot. Which I always thought would be, because it was really cool. Every minute it ran backwards and put front forwards and reset itself. But I always wanted to do a Kickstarter project. I actually wrote up the Kickstarter and made video for it, but we never actually published it. Way back in the early days of when you still had a chance at making a Kickstarter project that would do anything.
Did you short the stepper?
Yeah, well, the stepper would just do hold, so you could just hold the steppers.
Oh, so
Yeah,
power.
yeah, just 8 power. Yep, definitely plug that.
If you shorted it,
Yeah, you could lock the rotor. That'd be too. Yeah, we don't want to do that. Like, then you could use this.
to run this one.
Yeah. Well, scope creep.
Oh, I
Anyways,
I forgot, one thing, I have in the mail or soon in the mail, a GPS receiver for the Arduino. So I can have it, automatically, you don't have to set the sunrise, you don't have to set your location in the world. It'll just calculate that using the GPS. Yeah.
Yeah, this thing. Cool. Well, I have a need to build a chicken coop door that keeps track of, dust on cycles, which actually somebody here previously has made, so I was going to get in touch and plug them. But there's a perpetual need for the same thing. You need to know where you are in order to get this thing automatically set, or you need to program it periodically. So either way, the chickens apparently get very unhappy if they're not out at dawn and back in the dust. So, any other questions for David or ideas? Cool. Well, thanks for sharing. Appreciate it. Maybe we'll see you.
Yep.
Jacob, did you want to? Yeah. Yeah. Pictures or anything, or? Yeah. Pictures. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So hopefully it'll good. I'll slide it gently and right on the first try. There you go. Up the share screen too. Oh yeah. Okay. Full screen games. Okay, hey everyone. I'm Jacob, a software person. Been a member for I don't know, half a year or something. So this past weekend, I replaced the exhaust in my Prius. As the exhaust had basically rusted through, and the engine was being really loud, and the emission system was complaining and everything. So I had ordered a full assembly. I brought my car in, put it up on the left. You can see the two exhausts down here. For extra rust protection, I put some high heat paint on the new exhaust before putting it in. So the new exhaust is this black here. That's the high heat paint. People like call it grill paint. So that's what you put on your grill if it's starting to rust or whatever, or you want to protect it from rust. Let's see. I can't close this. You can see you just click it in the arrow. If you click a picture in the arrow, or go forward. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah. This is a close up of part of the old exhaust. This is kind of the meat of the project here. The Prius has a hydrocarbon absorption catalyst, HCAC. It's a system that I think is supposed to reduce the amount of hydrocarbons that are emitted by the exhaust system for obviously emissions reasons. And what we're looking at here is part of that system. Under this little shield, there's a thing that rotates, and that actuates a valve inside the exhaust to control the flow of exhaust. And this is a little like a vacuum canister. I guess it's just kind of like it's got like a membrane in it or something. And so using a vacuum circuit, it just actuates this valve, which you can't quite see. But so I was wondering about this system. I didn't really know exactly what was going on when I did the exhaust swap, but I went back and looked online. I found this like random PDF. And so you can kind of see here what's going on. This is that cylinder that I pointed out. And this is the little thing that rotates to actuate the valve. And you can see this tan, the tan bars at the bottom and top in this cross section, I guess absorb hydrocarbons. I think those are mainly like unburnt fuel. It's on cold starts. So the reason it's on a Prius is because you're cycling, because you're hybrid. So you're kicking the engine on off more frequently. So this was in order to pass emissions. This was the solution, was to absorb the hydrocarbons when the engine first starts, As the engine warms up, run hot exhaust and burn it back out again.
Okay.
When you can consume them, because the exhaust is hot.
And that can happen like multiple times in a route if you're stopping and going electrical out. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, the tan stuff captures the hydrocarbons, and then once it's warmed up, you know, it purges those out by by allowing the exhaust to actually go through the main section here. I think the black section is the actual catalytic converter material. And yeah, I looked at this for a bit. I can't quite figure out exactly like where the valve is controlling flow where, but I think I kind of got the basic idea that I think is pretty clear there. So that closed. Okay. So going back to this, that's the system. Trouble with this is that the new exhaust assembly, for whatever reason, it comes with this vacuum actuator piece here, and you bolt it on right here. But it does not come with this little shield. And this thing is like welded on. There are like threaded bolts that come out of the main exhaust, and then you pop the cover on, and I guess at the factory they welded it in there. So the new exhaust comes with those same threads coming out, but it doesn't come with the shield, and it doesn't really come with hardware to put the shield back on. So the reason I took this picture is it's halfway through like grinding this shield off. So I got some help from Jaden, who's done a lot of exhaust stuff, I think, and combination of taking a grinding wheel at this and like drilling out these welds here. They're probably hard to see, but there are 3 different places where this is held on. So I eventually managed to get this free and then transferred it to the new exhaust and bolted it down, but it was a real pain. I wish they could have just given me the key along with all the other stuff. And that's about it. I guess I don't know if this is interesting to anybody, but I hadn't encountered this before. It's like a high jack stand, so I use this to support the old exhaust coming out and the new one coming in. And thanks also to Chris for helping me out with some of this, reminding me to put anti-seize on the fasteners and stuff. And yeah, I guess any questions? Well, how much can you learn? No, unfortunately, I didn't bring my car, so. What's that?
Is your car?
It's noticeably quieter, so that's good. Yeah, and the emission system actually hasn't been complaining. I wonder if it's like a temperature thing. I think it was complaining this winter, but it's also not complaining now. So clearly I didn't mess it up too bad. And hopefully it'll stay quiet. So far so good. Cool. Next week. Yeah.
All right, I think I've got the last thing to share here. Oh, I don't mind. So we can time. I'm fast. Make this boring, Tim. All right, we're done. So if you were here last month, I shared that we got chickens. We're gonna have chickens outside. And the next step to having chickens is having a place for the chickens to live, because apparently they just keep getting bigger. It's quite amazing. So the chickens have gotten progressively substantially larger. My wife Heather's been giving them supplemental challenge toys, so the chickens can continue to get smarter and learn things. So they've learned that they can fly up to the top of the fence and get out of the fence whenever they want to. So I do need better bird netting. But Jim has been working on taking, these are called IBC totes. They're big, but 300 liters. 300 liters, yeah, they're not.
There's the tall ones, they're like 330.
330, okay. Are they gallons or liters though?
Gallons.
Gallons, all right. They're huge. They're these big pallets, and they're used to, in this case, brew Funk Factory beer, apparently. So there's a brewery right down the street from Jim's house, and so he thought it might be worthwhile to use these to build a coop rather than trying to build the whole frame and the whole structure. And then the other thing then is this can be you know, we can condo it and we build skyscraper, you know, run it out in the neighborhood. No, I think the idea was to try to implement something that was recreatable. Mark helped, you know, to model a human size fitting in there. So figured just cut the hole through the sides a little bit bigger and get people in there. These are actually really commonly used for growing beds, like garden beds, because they're elevated off the ground. You put soil in them. They're meant to hold piles of water, so they're really strong. We use 2 of them out front as garden beds for the same reason we move them around with the Bobcat and the forklift. But of course, the first necessity is apparently to build a miniature version of our building. So rather than building a normal chicken coop, we had to, of course, roll tubing and then reuse the siding cutouts from cutting out all the windows and doors for here. And then this is what it looks like right now down in the car bay, although they've got, I think, the rest of the styrofoam on it. So we're insulating it. The other fun thing with these totes is since they've got filler port on the top, you can put fans on the top for exhaust. One of the big things with chickens, you don't want them to get too high humidity in there, but you need to keep them warm during the winter. At least you should if you're nice to your chickens. And the chickens are getting wily enough that they need a new home, so I'm starting to get out of their enclosure. The other thing this month is I got the fire alarm wired and done. I talked last month about how you don't need to have any kind of a certification to be a fire alarm installer. So yes, thank you. That's me, certified. I gave myself a little printout, so we're good to go. So this is when we first got the panels set, and then you know, the batteries in, got all the wires done. The company that we hired, turns out this is their first install of this brand or this manufacturer panel, and so there's supposed to be a dialer behind here. So these panels can dial back over internet, they can dial back over cellular, or they can dial back over POTS, like plain old telephone service, so actual copper wires. We actually have a huge bundle of copper wires into this building, because our building used to be a telecommunications building, so we have like 100 phone lines into here. I called AT&T though and asked them, like, could we turn on a couple of these? How much do they cost? They were like, sure, you can turn them on, but they're $200 a month for a phone line, because they have to maintain the copper from here all the way back. Because it's truly a pair of copper wires from our building back to wherever their switching station is. So it's really expensive because they don't want to maintain copper all over the place. So consequently, this system has to dial. So these 2 phone lines will dial to this box. This box then has 2 Verizon cell phone communicators inside of it. So those will dial back or dial out in an emergency. But it was just interesting to learn about, they don't allow you to use internet communication in our states. In other states they do. So it's just this whole hodgepodge of various rules of various eras, because it's gone from telephone service all the way to the internet communication now. And so it's kind of an interesting setup. So yeah, so we're missing this little widget that goes in here. So they're working on ordering that, and then we'll see if what I wired up is actually works and is done correctly. So I'll be interested to find out. So that's there's like a horn strobe up here that says fire. I'll pass it around the plans if anybody's ever been curious what that looks like. So this is what you get when you pay for a fire alarm, and then you have your options are you can pay a company for what's called parts and smarts, which is where they buy the parts and give them to you, and they give you the plans, and then they submit the plans to the city, and then you install all the stuff, and then they come out and program it. Which we also found out that there's 2 versions of these panels. One version is like you buy it from the company. It's called Potter. Potter's the manufacturer. Buy it from Potter. They give it to you, and then you can program it. The other version is you buy it from a vendor, and the vendor, of course, locks the panel to their vendor software, so you can't reprogram it. Now, the irony is, buying the parts and the program from the vendor is actually cheaper. We're a fire alarm distributor. If anybody needs fire alarm parts. Turns out though, even being a fire alarm distributor, you can't get parts for cheaper than somebody who orders a lot of fire alarm parts. So ironically, it was cheaper for us to have them give us the plan or submit the plans for us and provide all of the parts for the entire system than it was for me just to buy the parts. So in this case, it'll be cheaper later on if we want to reprogram this thing ourselves or add features or whatever to just buy another panel and replace it. Except for right now, there's still a shortage of fire alarm parts. So it's like a 6 to 8 month backlog to get a fire alarm panel right now. So on most buildings, you can't have occupancy unless you have this panel set. So there are buildings right now that are completely constructed and built, and they have to post someone on fire watch, whose literal job is to walk around the building all day long with a fire extinguisher and a phone. And if they see fire, they either try to put it out or they call the fire department because they're a stand-in for this panel dialer. which is insane. But that's the only other option, because if you don't have the parts to turn your system on, then you can't make it work. In our case, for our building, we only need this when we want to use both floors. So we have occupancy on our first floor, so that's fine. But the only time you need a fire alarm on a small building is if you have occupancy off grade. Off grade is like up a floor or down a floor. So in our case, we don't need a fire alarm panel to use this floor. We just need a fire alarm panel to use the other floor. So more than ever want to know about fire alarm panels. Our other fun topic is ductwork. So this is the ductwork for the caretaker's quarters upstairs, like the apartment. So we ran those outside. And then this is the ductwork that's above us. If you've been here before, this was not here last month. There's now some gigantic ductwork in here. And this is the same thing here. You pay a company, they submit plans for you. You buy the ductwork from somebody, and then you eventually hang the ductwork. We first installed our HVAC unit in 2019. And so since 2019, it's just been blowing air to the wall in this big square ductwork, kind of in the middle of the building. And our building is really well insulated, so it didn't really matter. The air kind of goes wherever it goes, and it's good. But by code, we have to eventually put ductwork in. So we now have the ductwork, and now we're hanging all the ductwork everywhere. So, which has been an entertaining process. And then lastly, poor Mr. Sean was forward the other night, so we finally hung up the guardrails for the apartment staircase. So there's a caretaker's quarters, like an apartment. It's an accessory use of this building upstairs so that somebody can live here who maintains the building in the long run. And so we're slowly building that space out to get occupancy up there. So we've been working on putting the stair railings in. And then today, Mr. Scott and I had a very, very fun and entertaining day welding the last nose on the stairs that go upstairs. So it doesn't look like much, but this little tiny nose is what makes these stairs code legal. And you have to have a nose on the stairs. I don't know, Sean, what's the nose for? Is it just for ergonomics or what?
Commercially. This is a guess, it's an egress from a residential.
And a commercial space. Yeah.
Yes, but I could have got away with calling it just residential. But you had to add it. You have to try that to be.
Yeah, and you're required to have some kind
Right,
of either.
I think it's inch and quarter. Yeah. I think it has to do, it may be an 88 type of thing or a spatial repair thing.
You feel it, yeah.
Because the stairs, it gives me a little more ergonomic. It's a weird thing, because then you can solely see the stairs. Anybody want
Hey, we paid good money for those. Come on now. Let's see. That's actually a great question. Scott, do you remember? I try to forget these things as fast as, I write the check and then I try to forget about it.
Is it really cheaper than you just carry a fire extinguisher? You walk around.
That's a solid option. Definitely a solid option. Yeah, I know. So the elevator is an easy one to remember. That's 77,000. The fire alarm, I want to say, I think it was like 8,000, something like that.
Maybe closer to 10.
Might be close. Yeah.
So if you've got a residential thing upstairs, you can probably get a residential phone for your fire alarm. And I can do that too.
Well, this is the fun part. If you buy a residential phone line, it's actually an IP phone. So it's an internet phone. So the fire alarm they can't send data over IP phone. It won't work. So it's a weird thing where when you have an IP phone, they bracket the frequency range, and that's how they compress the data. So when they take the analog phone, like you grab your phone and it's analog, goes to the IP phone, and then that gets compressed and then sent out. They lose the communication data that the fire alarm system has, and you can make it work. And they sell a thing that compresses and uncompresses the data, but by code you can't do that because it has to be a true copper phone line. So that's what's crazy is yeah, you're right. The residential services are cheaper, so less reliable, but they still have to be a copper phone line, which is crazy. But I have definitely thought about all of the evil ways in which you can use a residential address to gain commercial services and share things back and forth. So,
my building is required to have that. You can't get a provider to give us. You can't legally have a fire alarm in a building that.
yeah, that's wild. Yeah, they're going through and doing. I think it's called Starlink, but it's not the Starlink. It's a cell phone provider service. It's like a plug-in module. But it's the same thing. All these fire alarm companies are running around to buildings like yours, and they're saying, "Oh, for only $5,000, we'll upgrade you." It's like $100 thing, and then a really small trivial connection to hook them together. So, yeah, it's classic stuff. Any questions, comments, concerns?
That chicken house, what legs, what was it? That's not, they look good, quick, like really, that's just temporary or?
Jim, you gonna define your design?
It's not so much quite a design, but it has been signed off by an architect.
That's there for the plan.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've got a lot of professionals around here. So.
Yes. It's sort of an experiment, and you know, out as you go.
No, these are steel. So interestingly, we're trying to use all the random crap we have around here because we don't want to buy stuff. So these legs are they're plastic coated like conduit.
Oh.
They're used. It's called flow racking. Flow racking is like when you're at the convenience store and you pull out the bottle of milk and all the milk rolls forward. It's called flow racking when it's used in factories. And so it's the same idea. Somebody ergonomically needs to reach, grab whatever the next product is, and they have 100 of them loaded up, and so they know X number of product goes out every hour and components or whatever. So anyway, these are the frames for industrial flow racking that some factory tore out and they gave to us. So we have a whole bunch of sticks of this plastic coated steel pipe. So it's steel pipe, it's plastic coated, which makes it impervious to weather, which is why we chose to use it because it'll never rust out.
Yeah.
And then it's the same thing. The other trick then is with round pipe, we could roll it. That's why I made the roof frame out of this. And then the siding is all spare siding from the building. So the only thing we're in is $100 for the totes. The insulator, the foam we had upstairs. So oddball, trying to use up all the oddball stuff. But yeah, so these are gonna get gusseted. So this will get a piece of sheet metal triangle on the corners.
Okay.
And then I think we're gonna is it plan to put another leg in?
Yeah, 2 legs in the middle.
It's just got chickens in it, but the litter bedding gets tall, and you've got the food for the chickens, and then nesting boxes, and then water, and then the human who's gonna get in there to clean the thing out. And wind, yeah. Wind loading today was entertaining. We were slightly concerned the roof was going blow away, so we put the roof on today. It's now making itself lighter by the moment. Yeah, we're gonna put bricks down, so I'll keep it out of the. Not even gonna pour foundation. I know everyone's gonna be jealous, but
How are you
we
doing
poured a
with
lot of
water?
it.
Off the tap, off the city water, or you just like, get rid of the automated?
We'll just fill something off. Yeah. If we want to do it right, we catch rain.
There's one guy who's a member, he and I were with that, like water that was for pigs or something.
Jim, you want to grab one?
So they got
Waters. Right, right.
Oh, the little.
Yep. Yeah, they've injection molded. They've got a science on this. So there's an injection molded feeder hood that you drill an 80mm hole in a bucket. And you put this hood in, and then it gives them a spout. They can't take all the food out of it. And then the blue thing is a self-filling watering bucket. So when it's full of water, the weight of the water tips the bucket down and stops it, shuts off the water feed. And then whenever the water gets light, it lifts up and then it opens the valve again. And those are like, I think I bought 20 of them for like $3 with free shipping, which is completely insane.
And he was building a chicken.
Yeah, I got extra water, that's for sure. It's gonna cost you though, Eric.
I know, that's okay. What is this?
That's the hood for the food. So it goes 90 degrees.
Oh,
Close.
okay.
Other way, flip it over. There you go. Yep, like that. So they can reach their heads in. The hood, yeah, it goes like that, and then the hood keeps the water out. And then it's actually got a cap that goes in to cap it off.
That goes in the side of the bucket?
It goes in the side of the bucket. Yep.
Oh, that goes to the side of the bucket. I got
Yep.
it.
So you drill a hole in a 5-gallon pail, and you can fill seed or food in there.
Oh, man, that's brilliant too. There's one of those.
Yeah, you can. I got a ton of them. Yeah, there's like 20 something of them over there. It's the same thing. They were amazingly inexpensive. Like there's no way you could build anything. The price is crazy.
How many chickens do?
We got 6. We got 6 when it was only legal to have 4. Now it's legal to have 8. So the law just changed. Yeah.
Residential?
Well, that's a you can play with the code. Joe, what are you doing again? Oh, keep my wife happy, just like Eric, you know, can't show the wood and the, yeah, I'm with you, I understand.
Neighbors had chickens, now they got ducks.
Oh, ducks are cool. If you wanted ducks, you can't have ducks in the city. Don't tell your neighbors.
I don't think they.
One total holds 3 chickens.
One's, oh, okay.
This is
So
for
that-
space.
Yeah, our coop is built like correctly with a lot of room. There are plenty of coops in this town that are tiny. The chickens should be okay with it.
Where are you putting it?
We're gonna put it out here on the south side. So come to the
Are they
next
gonna have
meeting.
a Open space to run around?
Yeah, so there's a chicken run, and the run goes out the front of the coop here.
Got it.
And the plan is to make the run with a round truss row or the bowstring truss row, but we'll see. So it'll be interesting. There's some fun ideas floating around, but yeah, so this will get 1/2 inch hardware cloth underneath to keep mice out, or 1/4 inch maybe if you guys tiny stuff, to keep the mice out of the run and out of the food.
We use 1/2 inch and it keeps the rats out. We didn't have a mice problem, we have a big rat problem.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, because you could technically use bird netting, but it lets mice and all sorts of stuff.
Chicken wire does not work, because rats can get chicken.
Yep. You gotta train the chickens to murder the rats.
My wife has a compost, she says it got a lock. She put a brick on it and she bungee corded it. Someone still got into the compost. I'm like, it's a raccoon.
Shouldn't talk about your neighbors like that.
We've got
Yeah, we had one that runs along the railroad tracks. We had one yesterday sniffing, or the other week sniffing the cage that they were in. So the fox definitely have a smell for the chickens. So
Yeah, they come up and eat them in a cage, but the fox would come up and the chickens would dumb enough that they'd be right next to it. Pull their heads up to the fence, and that's all they get is the head.
Man.
Oh,
Delicacy.
Yeah. All right, Zoom people, got anything else to share? Otherwise, we're gonna cut you guys off. All right, well, thanks everybody for coming on the interwebs. We will catch you next one.